All right, got a couple things to review here this morning, a couple changes, and a couple things I want to audition. So I've been running the Zoia at in effects loops, whether it be the GT1000 or the HX effects, and I've needed, both of those have two effects loops. I've needed the second effects loop for the trio in most of those situations, which means that I had to run the Zoia in mono. Thankfully, the Zoia sounds fantastic in mono. But now that I've landed on this very dense pedal board, I decided I want to run the Zoia in stereo again, because there's a lot of things that the Zoia does in stereo that I really like a lot and use all the time. So right now I'm going from, I've got my front ends the same. I'm coming out of the Q send into the clone looper, then into the mood, into the Zoia, and then the Zoia is coming out in stereo now. Now, because I decided I wanted to run the Zoia in stereo, I had to rewrite a sound on sound patch. So my new sound on sound patch I've been messing with the last couple of days is I'm calling Cloud Temple, and that's what I wanted to review this morning. So on page 1 here, well, I should also say, every time I find myself looking a little closer at $3,000 plus guitars, I check myself and I say, you know what do I have in the pile, so to speak? And I've got this, I was looking at Les Pauls. It's like, I've got a Epiphone Les Paul Koa, which has an ebony fretboard. It's a little bit of a weird guitar when it comes to the pickups. Very strange guitar. But strange usually means I just haven't figured it out yet. So that's why I got this thing out today. I like this guitar. It's kind of mellow sounding. I'm not necessarily EQ'd for this guitar. I've been playing that Telecaster with the wide range humbuckers, but nice mellow sound is always good for ambient setting. In any case, that's the guitar I'm playing today. So the Cloud Temple, the main page here is very, very simple. You've got a play/erase button, and you've got a record button. And I'm going to go to the next. I want to review the Cloud Temple patch I've got here, because it's pretty cool. And if I don't feel like I wave the flag too much about the Zoia, but for anybody that does ambient guitar, why don't you have a Zoia? You can create exactly what you ever dreamed of. Almost assuredly, you might have to do some learning in the process, but there's so many great patches on Patch Storage, and it's such a powerful and versatile tool. There's nothing like it out there, especially when it comes to somebody who wants to do experimental or spacey stuff. So I just want to review this patch because it's taken me a long time to kind of learn how to kind of leverage it for the sounds I want. Some of which are easy to attain, some of which you got to do a lot of learning and experimenting, but that's the part I actually love. I love the creative process. So page 1 is just that, play/erase, record. So we're going to go into page 2 because I want to show, so page 2 is the in and outs and some of the control stuff. So you got your mono in, stereo out. But one thing you can do in that instance with the Zoia is they have this one right here is a stereo spread. So this is without the stereo spread. Okay, and then this is with stereo spread. I mean, it just wakes the whole thing up. So, and you can change the delay between the left and the right to taste. And remember, I also have my analog front end mixed in a little bit there to fill out the sound, but just to add that in. Just a fantastic sounding thing. That's just simply input, stereo spread, output. That's all you're hearing there. So in this particular instance, because I'm doing the sound on sound thing in stereo, first off, in my mono one I had 3 sound on sound loops controlled by micro looping, and I thought they got a little busy. I mean, I'm going to play it here in a moment and put one note in there, and believe me, one note's plenty. to do my basic thing, but you can do it with a lot of other things. So the next module you see here is a 2-channel mixer. So left and right sound on sound loop, left and right loopers. These are gain controls. These are pan controls, and this is why I want to mention it. I have LFOs controlling the panning of each stereo channel, okay, that are connected to tap tempo. So whatever tempo I do, the panning will be in time. So similarly to, tapping in a delay time, the panning is also going to be in time with whatever you're playing, which is something that I find very desirable, something I wasn't using when I was in mono. And then, of course, I've got tap tempo. Next page is going to be like the main delay. Right now, so this is a stereo delay. It's a Bucket Brigade style. You can do tape, old tape, clean, Bucket Brigade. I think I'm forgetting one more they have in there, but I think in a sound on sound loop application, I think the Bucket Brigade delay style degrades in a nice pleasing manner without taking your attention from whatever you're playing over it, because again, I use this mainly as a pad. I've got an LFO before, I've got a VCA before, I've got a VCA after. Those are just what those control buttons are attached to in the beginning. So I can turn on or off whether the delay receives any of my playing, and then I can also break the loop with those buttons, and that's where that happens right here. So this is the left delay line. So the left side of that delay is feeding this left delay line, which is a 16-second delay line. And I'll jump ahead just for a moment. The right delay line is set for 15.9 seconds. So they kind of drift from each other as they repeat respectively on the left and rights. And again, they're being panned in time with whatever tempo I'm playing. They feed back into that sound on sound loop. They also feed these loopers. I have 3 LFOs controlling different aspects of the loopers. So first off, I've got one just controlling the record function. The second LFO is controlling the start position of the loop when it does play back, which helps keep it from sounding repetitive, which is the one thing I'm trying to avoid. I don't want to sound like a repeating loop. I want it to either respond to me, react to what I'm playing, or I want it to evolve on its own. And in this case, it's evolving on its own. So this LFO controls that start position. And then the third LFO here controls whether it's going in forward or reverse. So a little more variety again when it's playing back. And then the last component of these left and right delay lines with the loopers is I've got 4-step sequencers cycling through octaves and fifths. So I don't know if you can even see it, but yeah, it's just 4 steps, octaves and fifths, going up to the second octave of the fifth. And that's being controlled by an LFO that's attached to tap tempo. So again, that sequencer is going to move through in time with whatever I'm playing. Now the nice thing about that is, and we'll put some information in here real quick, is what happens is when the looper grabs stuff, it's sequencing at the tempo, and it kind of creates its own little melodies. I guess it makes it a little semi-generative. Here, I had one more little note here. So it's only 3 notes, 2 E's and a B. And as you can see, as it's playing back, all of a sudden I've got little excuse me, little melodies that happen as a result. And again, I stopped the recording part of it, but playback is engaged, so it'll keep cycling through that. And every time it cycles through that, it's going to feed slightly different information into the loopers. And as a result, because it's all tap tempo, the panning, the sequencing, it's going to create this little nice again, almost generative background. So left and right respectively for the loopers and the delay lines, in sync with the panning through the mixer as it cycles through. This is another new thing I've added in. I've decided that I want to start using MIDI. Zoia is pretty powerful. I can control other stuff with MIDI on here. Right now I just have tap tempo and the Volante set up, but there's a whole laundry list of things in the Volante that I can control from the Zoia. And I think one thing I may do sooner than later is start controlling the sound on sound mode on the Volante from the Zoia, so I can maybe make it work in tandem with this cloud tempo patch I have. It might be fun because, right now I still hate secondary functions. So to get into that and then have to back out and change something, like I can't tap tempo, and I don't know, I'll be able to do it, I think, more effectively through the Zoia, because right now this patch is only using about half of the processor. With the Zoia, if there's any Achilles heel, is you run out of processor because you have so many ideas, you keep adding stuff in. But right now it's pretty lean. So that's the MIDI page, so that's going to develop more as I mess with this. And then the last page is I decided to add modulation onto the output of the loopers, the left and right loopers. It's a vibrato, and the speed of the vibrato I have also connected to tap tempo. So the warble is going to be effectively in time with the rest of the loop. And right now, I don't know, I have it at, the width is a little bit warbly for me, so let's back it off a little bit, just to give it a little more of that tape feel. So there you go. That's my cloud tempo patch. Now controlling the Volante through MIDI, and I might as well just keep this little background loop going and do a jam. Let's see what we get. All right, everything seems to have worked pretty good. I was kind of eyeballing the levels there a little bit. Looks like levels are good, maybe a little soft if anything. I can do some makeup gain on the console there to fix that. I had a hell of a time getting the Zoia and the Volante to work together yesterday. I ended up doing a factory reset on the Volante, even though I bought this one new, and then put the settings back in because you have to set it to receive a MIDI clock. And then it started working again, so I don't know. Maybe it's just because the MIDI had never been used, or maybe the Zoia, because I've had this Zoia completely apart. I had to replace the keypad on it. This is an old one. I think it's number 500 or something like that. Someday, part of me wants to wait for Empress to come out with a new version. But last time I asked, which was a couple years ago, they're like, yeah, that ain't happening for a long time. I think people are still 10 years behind on how incredible the Zoia is. But they have done some fantastic updates on this thing. It just keeps getting better, and it's the same pedal it was. But this one, I know for a fact that one of the connections inside, and I did buy this one used, so whoever owned it before me, it must have gotten into a fight somewhere, because I did have to replace this, the keypad, and there's one of the little ribbon connectors inside there. The one side's cracked, so I don't know what happened to this thing in the past, but as long as I'm gentle with it, that thing, and it doesn't come dislodged, I'm good. So I just got to be real gentle with the Zoia. At some point, I really do need to get a new one, because there's one thing that's better than a Zoia, and that's two Zoias. So even if I do talk myself into picking one up, or I see a really good deal on one, I might end up with two Zoias on here, because there's just so much you can do with it, and the only real limitation, once you learn how to leverage this thing, is the processor, and the little tiny baby screen. But you really only have to hang over that while you're developing a patch. Once it's set, like I said, I made this patch so really you just have two buttons. And then tap tempo. The left foot switch is the tap tempo for all the stuff I described, including externally. I'm controlling the Volante's tap tempo from this patch within the Zoia, which is very cool. I'm finding that I like global tap tempo quite a bit. So there we go. Let's listen back, see what we get. By the way, yeah, I don't need to get another Les Paul. This thing sounds great. Again, if you listen, if you're really interested, or you're really thinking about getting a Les Paul, I've never been the biggest fan of Epiphone. And I think that's probably from the era I grew up. Like, Epiphones in the 80s and the 90s were just, in my opinion, I shouldn't say terrible, they were completely inconsistent. It was a crapshoot. That is not the case these days. If you listen to the recordings I made of this when I first got it up until now, I have not changed anything other than strings on it and messed with the pickup height and the pole pieces. And this guitar sounds completely different, and I wish I could tell you why. I think it's just the wood settling in. I don't even know what to say. But this has actually become a pretty cool guitar for myself. Again, every once in a while you want to have an actual Gibson, but then I'll pull it out and challenge my own, consumerism and play this. It's like, oh yeah, that thing just sounded just fine. And I don't even have it the EQ'd for this particular guitar. I have it EQ'd for a different guitar, and I still think it sounded great. Maybe in some ways arguably better, because I like that kind of almost electric piano bell ringing tone, and this one has it a little more than that. Telecaster I've been playing a lot lately. So let's listen back. Let's see what we get.